Hello, welcome to the August Wealth Advisory Top 10. I am Briton Ryle. This is Jason Williams. We are the editors of the Wealth Advisory newsletter. And every month we like to bring you the top 10 stocks from our portfolio that we think are going to do the best for the following month. And as we always like to point out, this is not stocks that we don't include in the top 10. It's not a sell recommendation on it. It doesn't mean we don't like them. Stocks that we had last month that we don't have this month doesn't mean we're suddenly turned our sentiment on that stock. It just means that we think the particular stocks that we're going to choose today have a better potential upside for the next 30 days.
Yep, definitely.
Isn't that right?
Isn't that we're long-term investors here. We've got a long-term outlook on all of the stocks. We issue buy and sell recommendations in the model portfolio. The top 10 is just sort of a way to help people maybe allocate new money or maybe new subscribers who are coming in to figure out which of the 31 or 32 stocks that we have in the portfolio now that they might want to invest in.
It's kind of tough when you come onto a service and then there's
we don't expect
huge
everybody.
Portfolio. It's overwhelming.
Exactly, and we can't. We don't expect everybody, and we can't expect everybody to be able to buy all 32 stocks at once. So this is sort of our way to maybe help you figure out which stocks you want to look at for the short term.
Right, indeed, very good, very good.
And to keep it interesting, we do things sort of like a fantasy football type competition where I'll take 5 stocks, Britt will take 5 stocks, and then we'll put those stocks up head to head and see who wins. Britt won the previous month.
I did not win this month.
I won
Jason
this month.
triumphed, and soundly. I was beaten soundly. QuantumScape did not help me.
Yeah, QuantumScape definitely took a big hit and just couldn't come back up. Spotify also slid. It got a couple of downgrades, which I don't really agree with the downgrades. I mean, it worked out in my benefit because I beat Brit in the top 10, partially thanks to that. But I don't agree with the downgrades. I think Spotify's got a big future ahead of it.
It's a funny thing about downgrades like the ones that Spotify received, because if you simply look at the numbers that are presented, yes, the guy's correct, right? In the low average revenue per user, in the perhaps slowing growth, but an up and coming company like that, like an emerging company, which Spotify still is. I mean, they've got a long ramp in front of them,
a huge trajectory.
You have to have a little imagination to be able to, one, understand the company, and two, to be able to kind of like stick with it when an analyst downgrades it in a very kind of knee-jerk reaction to plain old numbers and not really imagining the big picture, because there's always a critical mass. Like
100%.
Netflix struggled, and then they hit the critical mass point, and stuff starts to take off, and sentiment turns, and suddenly people look at the stock with imagination and say, "Ooh, well, where are they going to be in 2 years?"
And there were definitely analysts that said similar things about Netflix. That they weren't going to be able to get their average revenue per user up high enough to be a profitable company.
And when they were spending every penny in revenue they took in on content. People were like, "Oh, they're never going to make money."
Yep.
I mean, and people said that too. They said they'll never make money because their content costs are going to be way too high. And just a little imagination, and you can sort of think your way out of that box.
But I will say,
be able to take advantage of an opportunity.
Having worked on Wall Street, analysts are notoriously unimaginative.
Yes, of course.
Everybody was looking at Microsoft and Sony, and nobody paid any attention to the fact that everybody was playing Nintendo Wii.
Right. Right.
It takes a little imagination to think that Nintendo was going to come back like that.
And honestly, it's kind of like, in some ways, it's almost the analyst's job to sort of dumb it down, because, first of all, they have to play by the numbers. I mean, and second of all, that stuff goes out to the public, right? Your investment banks always have the preferred clientele, and that's who gets the the imagination stuff, right? That's who gets like, oh, well, actually, we think this is some great potential here.
True, very true. But yeah, so those two really dragged you down. The others weren't too bad. I mean, Bunge, which I think you're right. I think I'm wrong. I don't think it's Bung. I think it's Bunge.
Better not.
I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing it wrong.
That's just too weird.
I'm going to continue to call it Bung though, because I think that's a great name.
Right.
It was okay. It was sort of flat. Down a little bit. Unity Group came up about 5% for you. Qualcomm gave you 2%.
I was actually right on that.
I think Qualcomm's got some good future potential for it too, because everybody's upgrading the 5G phones.
Finally,
T-Mobile is forcing people to get rid of their non-5G phones. Verizon's giving everybody free 5G phones. Qualcomm's got the best 5G chipsets.
Well, T-Mobile's giving you new SIM cards to put in your existing phone so that you can catch 5G coverage is what they're doing.
Look at that.
Which, I'd rather have a whole new phone than a SIM card because I don't
yeah.
even know where the SIM card goes. I don't know what you do with that.
Right.
have to
And
make
don't you
my-
have to have
my kids have to
a
do that for
modem
me.
chip or something like that too? I don't know how to put a
I
modem chip
don't know.
into a phone.
Don't ask me that question. Crying out
So that was
loud, I have no
our little
idea.
recap of Brits there, but I got a couple of nice ones.
You
there,
did.
actually.
No, you
And,
did well.
Innovative industrial properties. I said last month that I wasn't looking for a home run, that I was looking for maybe 10%, that I was trying to take a page out of Brit's book, and it gave me 8.84%, almost exactly 10.
So really, you failed. You didn't get your 10%.
Albemarle continued to ride that sort of
great-
green
I mean,
wave.
great one. It's
Gave
just
me a
a great one,
13% move up. Chewy, I said Chewy had gotten sold off too far, and Chewy's starting to come back. It gave me 4%. Scott's Miracle-Gro and NXPI were both down for me. I'm really surprised at that. Scott's just continues to fire on all cylinders, and NXPI is making chips that people want but can't get.
Yeah.
So I figured that they would go up, but I still got the W, and I'll take it.
Chip space has been, it's just been such a weird place to be lately. There was a point, like 2 weeks ago, our sector heat map, right, had, I tracked this one that gives you sectors that are showing buying interest and showing selling interest, and they stack like cargo ships, the blocks do. And there's like probably 30 of them. And 2 weeks ago, we had 5 in the blue. Everything else was red. Last Monday, that big sell-off we had, Dow was down
Everything
like
was
almost.
red.
Well, there was one.
There was one.
There was one, and it was Latin America.
Oh,
It
okay.
wasn't
Interesting.
anything
Interesting.
in North America at all.
Oh, wow.
And then subsequent days of that week, it started to turn around, and semis were the first real like tech sector to start moving, and that's really what you want to see. You'd love to see semis because that's just such a building block for like everything tech. And when you see them move, right?
Everything
When you
has
see them move,
semiconductors in it now.
demand is improving and all of that kind of stuff. I think it was a technical sort of rebound though from that 900-point drop. And I wanted to get to this today too. I do not think we are out of the woods from selling right now. I think there's too much overhang.
No. And I know
of just
you've,
like potentially bad news coming up.
I know you've pointed it out a lot that the market's really driven by algorithms these days, and
Right.
a lot of the trading is done by algorithms.
Right.
And the thing is, algorithms don't go on summer vacation, but human traders
Right.
do, human investors do. So like
Right.
right now, you're seeing. That reaction, it was almost just textbook algorithm.
Right.
As
Oh, sure.
soon as
Right.
the averages hit,
Right.
boom, right back up.
And algos don't have emotions. They're not going to respond to something the Fed might say unless somebody, tweaks it and gets to say that. And all the algorithm-based trading on Wall Street, they pretty much all are trading the same thing. So
Yep.
they move in the same direction.
Yeah.
And they kind of stampede in the same direction. When
No,
we're
they really
rallying,
do.
they just rally relentlessly. And when we sell off, that's when it gets scary because, 80% of your trading is computer-driven these days. And if none of those trading systems are buying and they're all selling, that's when you end up with a no-bid market, right? When
definitely.
there's no offers to buy stock. And when that happens, the computers will just keep diving lower and lower until they find a bid on a stock. And I think we're going to see that. I'm really worried about it. I think we're going to see it fairly soon because, you couple the Fed, they're going to announce tapering.
They have to.
Perhaps this week.
It could be.
What in God's name is going on in China? They're going.
They're just going to town on their own stocks.
Well, they are, and it's.
I think it's a dominance thing.
Of
It's
course it
one.
is.
Like
Absolutely.
we want all of these things under our umbrella.
Yep.
As close to
Yep.
home as possible. 2, we'd like to get some of these foreigners out.
Right.
Because the more
Right.
the more equity you hold in a company, the
Right.
more you control you have over the
Well,
company.
and they don't want to face a situation like the one that we kind of face in the United States, where, Facebook and Google and Twitter can kind of like tell Congress what to do. They're like, well, we're not doing that. And they're kind of running the show in a lot of ways. Apple, they're like almost too powerful for the politicians to get their arms around anymore. They're
Politicians
almost
definitely don't like that.
they're almost
when
fully
you run an
independent.
authoritarian
Well,
government,
and you
will
don't-
not stand for that.
Well, right, but do we think that Twitter and Facebook have been good citizens with the power that they have? I would say not. I would say they've not been particularly good citizens. They've passed on lies, information they know is false, and they're like, well, that's just the way it goes.
It's just a platform.
And we don't. Right. It's just an anonymous platform or a agnostic platform, and I think everybody has issues with that. I mean, if you're
Definitely
if you're
true,
conservative,
but then
Twitter's
start to get into like philosophical discussions of who decides what's true and what's not.
exactly,
You
or
know,
who's
and
censoring
that's
who,
not what we're here for.
or who's censoring who. Right?
Exactly,
You know,
and that's what we're getting into. You know, that's what you're seeing.
Absolutely,
Totally.
absolutely. And so, you can see why China might be making these moves, but like take that company Didi, which really, China cracked down on Jack Ma and Alibaba like 6 months ago, right? They threatened him. He was actually detained briefly. He wasn't like arrested, but this is very
I
like
don't think they
I'm calling
actually
it,
arrest people. I think they just sort of
you disappear or whatever, or your like robot shows up and it's not you anymore. They replace you with a
Jack
some kind
Ma's
of Jack Ma
hologram.
cyborg. He looks like a cyborg anyway. That guy's kind of odd looking. But anyway, I think it's a very Putin-esque move of China. I think they're definitely clamping down, and that government is going to not only control everything, but they've taken like personal equity stakes in these companies. Oh, you want to do business? Well, you're going to have to come through us.
Definitely. All these companies are private companies, but the Communist Party of China is a major shareholder
But then
in all of them.
Didi came out, right? And apparently, when they IPO'd, they raised $4.5 billion, in the United States for their company. Apparently, a couple of days before that IPO, or maybe a week, the Communist China Party said you should think about delaying your IPO, and they were like, yeah, we're not going to do that. And then 4 days after, their IPO, the China's government clamped down on them, said we're gonna investigate all of your whatever finances, and the company lost $29 billion in market cap in like 3 days or something.
Yep.
And it's like, that's kind of a scary thing. And even
Did the company lose the market cap, or did the investors lose it?
well, exactly, the
That's
investors
the real
lost
question,
it, right?
because the
investors
company
lost
got
it.
that money at the IPO.
Well, they got their $4.5 billion. They'll be impaired because they won't be able to raise money in the same way, and but it's still an issue because Investors Business Daily had an article out 2 weeks ago saying here are the 5 stocks that you should own in China despite what the government's doing, and I'm like, are you kidding? You can't own Chinese stocks.
No.
And this has been a fundamental aspect of wealth advisory for years now. I've been when you came on board, I was like, we don't buy Chinese stocks ever.
Actually, we tried one while I was
thought
here,
about it, right?
and we got burned.
What was it? Do you remember?
It was a real estate company.
Oh, that's right.
They were-
Yeah. Really big dividend. Yeah, it was a nice one.
Really
Well, think
big
about that.
dividend,
They're
but then they
cracking
got
down
caught
on
up
real
in
estate now
blockchain and just-
too. They're cracking down on real estate over there too because of the way
Everything.
property values are, which
No, definitely an interesting situation. But we swore off the Chinese stocks. Decided no. That was.
you can't understand it for one.
It's tough enough to know that like pretty much all of our companies are doing business in China because they're all international
Right.
mostly.
Well, we can know what our company's doing, but you can't really know what a Chinese company's doing.
No.
They lie.
They do.
There's been so many cases of
And
fraud.
you see all of these situations where a couple of years later numbers come out. Luckin Coffee comes to mind.
That's the most recent one. But Lord,
Investors and a lot of U.S. investors got hit on that. So we try and stay away from those.
just go with what's good. And that's that's kind of a fundamental idea behind the wealth advisory. Anyways, like we don't really dabble in penny stocks very often. We don't take a lot of risk. We buy solid companies, and that's how they
And you want to
perform
talk
well.
about investing in what's good, right? So far in the first half of this year, foreign investors have put over $900 billion into U.S. Companies. They're investing in the U.S. So
Of course,
why
why
we?
wouldn't you?
Yeah, and why wouldn't you? And why shouldn't
It's
we?
the strongest rule of law in the world, and that's where you want your money.
Yep.
It's hard to think about, all of a sudden all your money's gone. But you could have owned some Didi. You could have had, you could have gotten
Luckin.
whacked there.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Exactly.
Very true. Very
exactly.
true. So getting back into
Moving
our
on.
picks and things, what we'll do to sort of make this a little bit more fair for the person who came in second place.
I do not need your
call
pity
it the
or your
loser.
charity. I don't need any of it.
I won't call you the loser. I'll just say you came in second place.
No, I'm
Britt got the
definitely the
silver
loser.
medal.
In a 2-man race, great. That's perfect.
Hey, you're still the second best here.
You
at
really
this
have
table.
worked on this. I see. I can tell you prepped for this. This is great.
I'm really enjoying.
Do you have a hat
this.
for me
I'm
to wear?
Really
Do you have like a
enjoying this
stupid hat
after
for me to
last
wear?
month. No,
And
I
I'm not
don't.
wearing
No,
it if
I
you
don't.
do. So.
I thought about getting one of those Washington Nationals T-shirts that just has a W on the front of it. I'm wearing that today. Just open it up every time you talk.
But you don't want anyone to think you're a Nats fan.
No, I don't want that. And I also don't want you doing it to me next month if you win.
It's been that way, right? It's been back and forth.
It really has. It really has been back and forth. So don't take this as any sign that like I'm going to beat Britt this month. He has definitely trounced me soundly before.
Your false humility is just really, really great on my nerves.
I'm really trying, pal. I'm really trying.
It's working. You're doing well.
So anyway, to make it more fair for the person who came in second place, we let them select first. We each get to keep as many as three stocks from our previous 5, but we have to replace at least 2.
Well, I can tell you, I am keeping Spotify for sure.
Britt's keeping Spotify.
The downgrades are, I don't want to say they're wrong, but they're wrong. The company is, it's in fine shape. I don't think that, I don't think their numbers are going to be really slowing. You're going to have quarterly, whatever variations, I'm sure. But, long term, Spotify is one of the few stocks that I feel completely fine recommending to anyone that I talk to.
I think long term it's got really great potential.
Because people
I think
do
that
ask.
it's going to continue to be able to renegotiate its contracts with the recording industry,
they don't
and
even
it's
spend
got
that much.
more
I'm not even
power
worried
than it
about
had before.
Right.
So like they already don't spend
Right.
much money. They can spend even less and tighten those margins up
And it's
more.
a model. One of the last payments they made was the biggest payment that had ever been made to the music industry. So your artists are going to come around on it. They're not going to fight it. They're going to be like, okay, this is good.
Right.
Their story is always going to be about just subscriber growth.
Yeah.
And I think they're kind of like locked in on that.
I
So.
think you really hit the nail on the head there with the artist, though, is that like this is the best way to monetize their product. So they're going to go to it,
Right.
and where the artists go,
Right.
the listeners are going to go to
Right,
it.
right. Agreed. And so, I'm definitely keeping Spotify, and of course my phone unlogged me. And I'm definitely keeping Qualcomm because I think that is finally. It's funny thing we've been talking about. When, especially with the next stock I'm going to keep, when the 5G kind of like ramp is really going to come, and really have that story, sort of underpinning a lot of these investments. And so perhaps it's now, and I'm thinking it probably is because if you're getting a free phone, and I'm getting a SIM card for my stupid phone, it's going to start to get into the discussion, into the conversation. So my third keeper is going to be Unity Group. I'm hanging on to that baby.
I like it.
It started to move a little bit, but there's such good upside for that thing. It's like
there
a
still
little over
is.
11 now.
Yeah.
13, 14 is like easy for it to get to.
definitely easy.
That's just recent highs.
And
52
the company
highs.
really hasn't started to move its dividend up yet, and I can see
Right.
that coming sometime in the near future. I've been saying it for a while, but the cash flows are looking good.
Right.
They've got a really tight balance sheet.
Yeah.
Their biggest customer is in much better shape than it was before.
Right.
And everything is just looking really good for them.
Yeah.
So once that dividend starts to grow, the stock is gonna go
It's
crazy.
going to do really well. Yeah, we like it. I like it, and it's mine. So
I
there you
like
go.
it. I think that's a good one.
right,
So
well,
those are
thanks.
Britt's keepers there. He's going to keep Spotify, Qualcomm, and Unity. And now we're going.
We never even know how to say that,
I'm not
right?
even
Unity
sure.
or Unity?
I like Unity because it sounds like that Queen Latifah album.
Okay.
Or Queen Latifah song, pardon me, the Rick James album. And
All right.
anyway, my keepers, getting a little off topic there. My keepers this month, I'm gonna keep my 3 winners. Honestly, I'm gonna let the winners run.
Let your winners run.
Exactly. I'm
That's
gonna
what they
keep
say.
Albemarle. I think Albemarle can keep riding this green wave. If we're gonna make the future
yes.
green, we're gonna need a
Yes.
lot more lithium, and Albemarle makes the most of it. They're like really like focusing in on lithium too. They're selling off other operations
Within that EV space, that's the one stock that I'm completely comfortable
Definitely.
recommending to anyone, regardless of their risk tolerance or whatever, because it's just the story's too good.
Oh yeah,
They're
like
executing
I would
too well.
actually be hesitant to put I'm hesitant to put like an all-time price target on it.
Right.
Because I just don't think that there's really a top for it if we continue along.
Because that'll
the path
just limit
that
your
we're trying to continue.
imagination.
Exactly. So first keeper is Albemarle. Second keeper, Innovative Industrial Properties. I said when I put it back in, it was going to stay in for a while, and I think it can get us another 10% this month. It's down. It's
Well, it
around
didn't last month.
it's
What makes you think it's going to
213.
do it this month?
Well, I'm sorry. I think it could get us another 8.84% this month. Maybe even more because it's at 213. I think it can get easily up to our buy limit at 225.
Right.
I really like this company. It keeps adding properties. It keeps boosting the
They're
dividend.
solid.
It's just, and it really shows what happens when you get in on a dividend grower. right when it starts growing its dividend. You know, our first dividend, I think for this, we were getting like 60 cents a year. Now we're getting $1.60 a quarter or $1.40 a quarter.
That's just nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's nuts.
Insane growth. That's like 25%. We're getting a 25% gain on our initial purchase.
You're right. And
every time we get the dividend.
first purchase was so good, and you know we've had this one for a few years.
It's a great
now.
one, and it's honestly it's really going back to only stocks I feel comfortable recommending. It's one of the only stocks in the cannabis industry that I still feel comfortable recommending for a long-term investment.
It's one of the few REITs I feel comfortable investing for the long term.
I love it.
Yeah,
it's definitely one of the only REITs that I'll put in my top 10 for sure.
Right.
You know?
Oh, sure.
And so that's
interesting that you would
keeper
say
number
that.
2, innovative industrial. You know, I would totally put Unity in the top 10, and I have before.
Oh yeah,
but
we used to fight
usually
over
REITs
it.
are a little bit slow movers.
Right.
But Unity and IIPR are two, you know, have a lot of potential. And so my third keeper is going to be Chewy. Chewy got me what 4% give or take
Chewy.
last month. I think Chewy just continues to grow. I mean, more and more people get pets. More and more people are adopting e-commerce. People aren't going back. Like people aren't stopping. People people don't want to go away from the convenience that they discovered through e-commerce during the pandemic, and that was, I think, a fear. And Chewy sold off, and Chewy should not have sold off. And,
Well, you know, interestingly,
I think
Chewy is one that you know really ran. You know, during it was a pandemic stock. It was a COVID stock, but I mean, yeah, it's come off from like 130 to like what mid 80s now. But you know. The valuation has never been particularly egregious, and the longer it stays around 80, the more attractive that valuation is going to look, because it's just running sideways in time while the revenues are growing.
Exactly.
They execute really well.
They do. I love it. It's my keeper.
So yeah.
I think I kind of I equate Chewy with Amazon, to be honest. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, a lot of people used it but didn't invest in the stock.
It's the Amazon of dogs.
And I really think it's the Amazon of pets. You know, it really is. Eventually, your pets are going to be able to order from Chewy themselves.
They're just going to think about bacon, and bacon's going to show up.
It's going to happen.
That's going to be amazing.
So those are my 3 keepers: Albemarle, Innovative Industrial, and Chewy. And let's go and get into Britt's first replacement.
And I'm trying to. My only question is which way to order these two, because again, I do think that we're going to have some more, as they call it, volatility in the market. I think there's some. I think there's still more downside coming, and I think that you know, depending on the reactions to the Fed starting to talk about taper, I mean, it could be pretty significant. I mean, we could see 10%. We could see more.
I feel like I was just reading something about the reaction in 2013 was like an immediate, I think 6 to 8% sell-off or something like that when they announced it.
Well, in 18 when Yellen actually, you know,
but the market actually finished up that year.
Yeah.
You know,
it didn't when Yellen started doing it, because they only stopped tapering at the very, very end of the year. But it was 20% in 3 months. Or even a little less. It was a nasty sell-off. I mean, I remember it pretty well because it was painful. I remember that. I remember that pain.
Remember the pain.
So all right. So I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna put a REIT in my top 10. I'm taking Hannon Armstrong.
Okay, I think that's a good one. That's another REIT I think that could have some good top 10 potential.
I don't like when you endorse my stock, picks.
I'm sorry. I like all of the stocks in our portfolio. You're not going to be able to pick a stock out of the bottom portfolio that I'm not going to have something good to say about.
All right. You're just so optimistic, Jason.
I can't help it.
You're like happy all the time. Kind of gets on everybody's nerves.
I'm that guy.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, so that's it. I'm taking Hannon Armstrong. You know, nice dividend. It has that, you know, exposure to the green market, and so I'm hoping the dividend can help protect it. You know, if we do get more downside, is my hope. I'm still going to keep a little bit of conservativeness in my 5 picks. So there you go.
I like that. Okay, so that brings it back to me. We get to go for my replacements. I've got 4 of them. Four of them. Well, I guess technically I've got 3 of them. One of them is one of the ones that I'm getting rid of, but I feel like we can technically add the one that we're getting rid of if you don't pick it back up.
But I have to. You can only pick it with your last pick.
Exactly.
You have to wait
so I got to hold off
done.
on that one.
Yeah. That's how that has to work.
For my first replacement, I'm gonna go with Maxar. I'm gonna go with Maxar, and I'm gonna tell you why. it's a really binary event, and by binary I mean it's going to have one of two outcomes: either the stock's going to go up or the stock's going to go down.
Huh? Really? You think?
I am not going to. I'm not going to see. I'm not going to break even
Ladies
on
and
this
gentlemen.
one. I'm not going to break even on this one, but earnings are coming out in the next few days, I believe, closer towards the end of the month. But if earnings impress, shares could easily move back up above $40.
When was the last time earnings were disappointing on Maxar?
The last quarter.
Oh, okay, there you go. There you
Last
have it.
quarter,
All
the
right.
company took a huge write-down on a failed satellite that they had put up.
Oh,
Do
the
you
one that
remember?
like blew up or whatever?
Well, the one that basically
Or
got
broke?
damaged in transit.
right,
So
right.
really, we need
Right.
to be talking about the company who sent it up there, SpaceX. Not mentioning any Elon Musk names.
I know.
But really, what probably happened is the satellite got messed up, like going in the rocket ship out
Right.
of the
Right.
atmosphere, because it's kind of a rough trip. When you think about it, it's actually surprising that this doesn't happen more often.
I don't know if it's rough. I'm not taking it. I've never taken it. I'm not going to take it. The people that want to go to space, I think, are completely out
I
of their minds.
imagine it's a rough trip.
Why
I
would you
should
wanna go to
say,
space? Do you wanna go
I
to space?
imagine. Outer space, maybe, to be able to see the Earth, but inner space, where like all you can see is just like black sky. Like, no, not really.
I screw any of that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
But yeah, so last quarter they took the major write-down on the failed satellite, but literally every other metric improved.
Right.
And I'm betting we're going to see more improvement, and the market's going
Okay.
to reward it. And
Okay,
if it gets
good
back
call.
up
I
above
like it.
40, then that gives me like, a good close to 10%.
I like it.
So Maxar is my first replacement.
I like it. I endorsed it.
Uh-oh.
I feel real good about it, Jason.
All right, there we go. See, look at that. It's infectious.
Trying to put
my
the-
optimism's
trying to put the voodoo on you.
infectious,
No,
All
I'm
right,
trying to sabotage you. That's
back
not.
to
I'm not
you.
actually happy. Very grumpy.
Back to you, Britt.
Oh, right. It's my turn.
It's your pick.
So look, here's what I was gonna do. Honestly, I'm honestly thought about making my fifth position cash. I thought about throwing a real monkey wrench at you
That's
and going with
interesting.
nothing, because I really think that, like I said, I really think that the
That is
potential for more
interesting.
downside. I know, isn't it? Isn't it?
Oh.
But that's not really what we're supposed to be doing here. We're supposed to be getting 5 stocks, and if they go down because the market goes down, that's the way it goes. So I'm going to put on Lemonade back in. I let it go,
Okay.
and it's right back to where it was when I nailed 30% in a month, and I'm going to
Hope for another 30.
come to Baba.
All right, let's get another 30 on Lemonade.
That's what
I'd
I'm
be
saying.
happy with that.
Yeah, because
Even if it means you beat me,
still
I'd be
love
happy
the
to see
company.
another 30%.
I still love the company. It's got such upside to it. It's still relatively unknown. How many people do you know that know the company? You probably know a few. Like, I don't know anyone.
A couple, but not that many.
It's a
But I'll
younger
tell you,
person's,
it's
company.
kind of interesting because like the people that do know it, they know it because they have they've bought insurance through it,
Right.
and they tell you that they bought insurance through it.
People are happy to talk about insurance
Yeah.
now.
I
Wow.
don't go around telling people
You're
who
not
I
as
got
young
my
as you look
insurance
anymore,
from.
Jason.
Yeah,
You're
it's
not
crazy.
sitting around talking about this
Talking
great
about
deal you got on
insurance. But it makes me feel young because I don't want to sit around talking about insurance. Okay.
That's awesome.
I like that. I really like Lemonade. Long term, I think Lemonade is a really great stock.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully it's a great stock for you short term.
Yeah, I mean, if the market, that's one that there's enough, optimism and upside priced in, even at 884, that it would definitely get whacked if the Nasdaq continues to act like it kind of has been, which is underperforming and kind of weak. I mean, it's definitely one of those that can get whacked. But I think taking advantage of basically any relative weakness to build a position, it means you're kind of dollar cost averaging in. So if it was, the highs are like 170 or something like that. So I feel like buying it at 80 is probably. It doesn't mean it won't go lower, but if it does and you buy it at 70, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
yeah.
You might have to wait a year, but ultimately,
In the long run, no, I definitely think
yeah.
this is a much more expensive
Right.
company.
that's exactly
much
what I
more.
think. Exactly what I think.
All right, I think that's a good lineup for you there.
Okay.
So let's go and we'll get my last pick, my second replacement. So I've got 3, and I technically could pop one of those back in, but I feel like that's sort of cheating because then I'd be keeping 4 and not 3. So
Well, you're a
I'm
huge
not
cheater.
gonna
Go ahead
with
and do it.
Never.
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. He's
never.
not a cheater.
That's terrible.
Very honorable.
That's terrible.
A very honorable man.
So I'm torn between our newest recommendation and one of the recommendations that I put in last year to take advantage of people not being able to go to restaurants and bars. And I think I'm going to go with that one, honestly. I think I'm going to sort of go with a little bit of a quasi-COVID play here.
Okay.
I'm not really too concerned about the Delta variant. The markets don't seem to be too concerned about the Delta variant.
What
but
is
I
the
will
market
tell
concerned
you-
about right now? They're not
the
concerned
market
about
doesn't
anything.
really seem to be concerned about really anything,
Right.
except potentially when tapering might possibly start.
Right.
But it doesn't even seem to be worried about that. But I think that going around and going out to restaurants, going out to bars, there's just not that many people at them. People are still doing stuff outside. I went to a baseball game that there were a lot of people at, but I'm seeing lots of people out at the parks. Actually, at North Point State Park over in Sparrows Point, Maryland, I was over there this weekend, and 2 days I went over there, and the park was full, and they were turning people away.
I actually ate
Had to come
inside
back
a
in the
restaurant.
afternoon so that I could get in.
ate inside a restaurant for the first time in
brave.
like a very long time. Very long
brave.
time. I know.
It's fun though, right? You missed it.
Oh, I mean, yes.
I've totally
Yes,
missed it, and I don't go out
yes.
to restaurants a lot. But I will tell you, I think a lot of other people miss it, but I think people still aren't going out to restaurants
Even
a lot.
sitting outside. I mean, I
And
sat
think
outside a
that,
lot.
I think that bodes really well for Dick's Sporting Goods.
Okay.
And Dick's is
All right.
going to be reporting earnings later this month, and I think that they're going to surprise analysts again. Last quarter's EPS came at $3.79.
They crushed.
They were looking for $1.19. People are still
crushed,
spending
yeah.
most of their time outside, and I really think that bodes well for Dick's. And
yeah.
I think that this earnings now analysts have stepped up their expectations because they got embarrassed last quarter, but I think Dick's is going to embarrass them again.
All right. Very nice. I really like that segment too, Jason. I gotta tell you.
It's a good one.
I gotta tell
It's
you.
a good one.
Is it?
I think so.
Don't sound so confident,
I
man.
think so. I don't know. I wasn't very confident last month, and I won. So maybe
Right, that's
I'm
what I'm
overly
saying.
confident.
When you're
this
overly
month.
confident, that's when you. Yeah,
Careful,
I like
folks.
it. I like it. That's why. That's why.
My
I'm praising
confidence
you.
about last month is not an indicator of future performance. My little disclaimer
All right,
there.
very good. All right, well, so there we
so
have it.
yeah, there they are.
What are your 5 again?
My 5
Read 'em off
are
for the good people.
Albemarle Corporation, Innovative Industrial Properties, Chewy, Maxar, and Dick's Sporting Goods.
All right, and I'm going with Spotify, Qualcomm, Unity Group, Hannon Armstrong, and Lemonade. are
Lemonade,
my 5
sipping on a glass of lemonade.
in the shade.
In the shade.
All right, well there you have it. That'll be that's what we're going with for the next month.
Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and click the bell below the video to get notified of new content. And if you have any questions about any stocks that you'd like us to answer, feel free to post them in the comments.
Does the bell go ding when you get a notification? Is it actually ding or is it just a
I think it just pops up a
Figurative
I don't know.
bell.
I think it's just a figurative
Okay,
bell.
very good. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks again.
Thanks again for watching. Take care.